This webinar is a part of our Data WIKS series, an initiative by Prism to create an ongoing platform where we can discuss new development, address challenges, and share insights shaping our industry. So make sure to follow us on LinkedIn and stay updated on all our upcoming sessions. We look forward to an insightful and productive discussion, one that I am confident will provide valuable takeaway for your own initiative. With that, let us begin. Rick, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that introduction, and welcome everyone who joined us. One of the key questions here, and what I'm going to kick off, is to sort of set the scene for the reasons for modernizing or migrating your legacy BI platform. Dinesh is going to go into how we do it and the experiences we've had and use cases. So, but I think the $64,000 question is, do you modernize or do you migrate? And migration of a platform, from one to another without any enhancements or improvements, is a hard ROI to come up with. So we do want to touch on a number of the things that in our approach, while we are migrating your environment, at the same time we're modernizing to provide added value and to your business across all users. So we'll talk about why do you do it? It doesn't come without cost. It doesn't come without risk. So what are the areas that we have found in working with the companies, the 6 or 7 areas that are the keystones to why they have made the decision to invest in a new platform and go through the migration. The other term there is the legacy BI systems, and there are a lot of those that have been around. BI has been around since mid-70s or more, and so they've been through a lot of changes over the years, a lot of different vendors and so forth. But one thing I see as being consistent in legacy BI systems is that they were built to run in an on-prem environment, kind of a dedicated server environment. Moving data in and out of your BI platform was a heavy lift, using ETL tools, multiple data pipelines, and so forth. There's the UIs of many of the legacy systems they're good, but they're kind of complex. They come from what we knew at that time, and a lot of companies are still using that. And then I think one of the key things in terms of the value that you get out of BI is when you can democratize the data and provide self-service capabilities to your business users so that they can make decisions faster and involve fewer people in having to make those decisions or analyze the data. So those are some of the things that you see with legacy BI platforms that we're attempting to address with a new modern environment. So if we summarize those 6 or 7 reasons or categories of risk associated with modernizing your environment, here's a list of a few. So the first 2, or actually the first 3, are hard ROI cost issues. So the first is the licensing structures of those legacy platforms. They tend to be very inflexible. They tend to go up, not go down, and whether you use it more or use it less. So it's hard to have any kind of control over those costs, and that can put a real strain on an IT budget, particularly if it's an unplanned increase from the vendor. The other is that for some of the vendors that have been around a long time, with a lot of the innovation and the new players in the market, the products, those legacy BI products or platforms, are starting to reach end of life, and we're seeing companies be more aggressive in dictating that certain releases of products are end of life and will no longer receive support unless you pay a hefty fee for it. So that impacts the business. That's a highly risky situation to be in as a company. Third issue is about the integration limitations. Again, the fact that they were based on-prem and the way the dependency on ETL and high code platforms, the inability to really migrate and take advantage of the capabilities that are typically today cloud platforms that provide real-time analytics. And how can you take advantage of that with the existing platform? Scalability challenges. I saw a data point that they're saying that over the next 5 years, a lot being driven by AI is that data volumes of a typical company are going to grow annually between 30 and 40%. That's much higher than what we've seen in the past. So can the platform handle that? And can they handle it in a scalable way and not just adding more licenses and more servers and cores and things like that to handle it? The other is that there's different data types. Most legacy BI platforms were built based on that the data would be in a structured relational database. And that's just not the reality today. There's so many different systems that are available, and the importance of being able to leverage unstructured data within your corporation can have very high potential value to you. The next three are kind of related to, again, the architectures of those products. While they were very robust, they were also very complex. So, and over time, as some of those people that understood how to build applications, reports, dashboards with those products move on, retire, whatever it might be, or just want to get more involved in more of the modern platforms, it's a real struggle to replace those. So you can find yourself in kind of a situation where you're paying more and more to bring on board expertise that's expensive, that understands those older platforms. And then ultimately, there's the fact that the big elephant in the room is AI. It's everywhere, and everybody says they're going to do it. And then you start to peel the onion back a little bit and find that they haven't done a whole lot other than maybe they might have a POC somewhere that just checks it out. And I think we're really moving forward if you can have a strategy in place that allows you to modernize your environment so you can take advantage of some of the new capabilities like natural language processing, data science, machine learning integration, the API access capabilities that are all part of the new modern platforms. It's important to be in that situation to take advantage of it. But again, there are risks, and the primary risks tend to center around the data. And that was an important thing that we've learned over the years, and why we put more emphasis as a company on becoming more of a data-centric solutions provider, consultancy company, whatever you want to say, is around data. Because you can take a report and take the code associated with it and replace it with something else. But is the data going to move over? Is there consistency of the results they got in the legacy environment and the results they get in the new environment. So there's a lot of importance in paying attention to that early. And then there are the typical things of cost overruns and technical project risks and disruption, which leads to, why it's important to work with a company, a vendor that has deep and rich experience in this particular area. And that's what I believe and what we believe Prism Analytics brings to the table. So when you say, why working with Prism Analytics makes sense, it's around these four key areas. And that means that we're going to reduce the risk, we're going to reduce the time, and we're going to help you reduce the cost associated with making the transition. Because if you're going to make it, you're going to make it, but we can help you get there faster and cheaper. And that's what we're all about. And then what Dinesh is about to go into is how we do that and some of the experiences that we've had, some use cases, and how we can move forward together. So Dinesh?
Thank you for that, Rick. So, as you've heard Rick talk about some of the business drivers that enable, that force organizations to make the switch from legacy BI platforms into more modern, more cloud-enabled, more AI-enabled platforms. I'm going to talk about, what could be some potential added benefits, technology-related benefits. Sometimes those don't come to you in the form of, these are the reasons why you should move. But they, once you make the move, once you start to see the benefits that these modern platforms afford to you and your organization, then the why becomes a little more clearer to you. So I'll start that off. So what I'm going to talk about is just some of those technology related benefits. I'm going to talk about some use cases on how we have engaged with our clientele, Prism Analytics with our clientele in these enterprise scale BI platform moves. What caused those moves? What did the clients think when they started this move? What did they want to accomplish? And where are they right now in accordance with what they wanted to get accomplished? So the idea there is to give you the ideas, give you some thought processes with respect to where you are in your data journey, in your BI platform journey, and then start to see what is possible, the art of the possible, what are other customers doing. These are two examples, but as we go along, if we need to have more conversations around that, Rick and I are open to having those discussions with you. But I'll start with, what does Prism Analytics do? Prism Analytics has been in existence for 5 years. They've been for the initial 3 years, they were in the cloud technology consulting space. In the last year or so, the focus has been 4 different pillars, really. Today's theme, which is the BI platform migration, being the central pillar. We help organizations move from more legacy platforms, for all the reasons that Rick mentioned, to more modern platforms, more AI-enabled platforms. And you'll see some of those symptoms as I go through the use cases with you. So we do a lot of these BI platform migration type implementation services type work with our clients. We also build AI data agents. If you see, I snuck the word data in the context. So typically when you hear agentic AI or agents, they're only talking about AI-enabled agents. Nobody really says data. The reason why we wanted to bring data is to be, one, true to our background of being in the space of data management, but also truly these agents that we've built interact with data repositories, whether it's on the knowledge side of things or actual data models or actual data warehouses inside the cloud or on premises. These data agents that we've built automate functions, makes life easier for the development community, the engineering community, and sometimes the user community. And we're doing that all the time, accessing data repositories, all the time accessing data warehouses. And we also have a lot of skills synergies with Microsoft Microsoft M365 stack, the data stack. So a lot of the work that we do will have architectural consistencies to our customers, which means, making them cloud native, bringing them the cloud native solutions of what they had equivalent in the on premises ecosystem that they were used to. So, but all of this with the central theme of data. And the fourth thing that we do is the total cost of ownership. So, and I could go on about the total cost of ownership, but very simply put, total cost of ownership is, when an organization embarks on this journey of moving from on premises to the cloud, they want to understand what exactly are they getting, what cloud native solutions are they getting, what does it cost for them, what does it truly cost for them, can they get the functionalities that they're getting on premises, what do they need to build, what do they need to buy, what do they need to hire people for. All of these questions are really symptomatic of total cost of ownership, and not dissimilar to some of the previous things, previous focus areas I spoke about. We answer some questions for total cost of ownerships for our clientele, and then subsequently help them with the actual execution of the vision itself. um, Now, I talked about tech benefits from a BI platform move. I'm going to kind of break this down into five or six different criteria, five or six different benefits that organizations get from moving to a more modern BI platform. So, and then there are other reasons why as well. This is by no means comprehensive, but in talking to our customer base, these are some of the more important ones that I thought I could share those with you. Chances are you might be seeing some of these symptoms in your organization, and we're happy to share our knowledge with you. So first off, natural language processing. So as you can imagine, legacy tools have very archaic, very unintuitive NLP capabilities, which means the reliance on query language and the need for you to have skills with SQL, skills with writing code, to retrieve data, to validate data, to build applications. All of this is significantly higher. So I'll use the example of a modern platform like Power BI. So a lot of the NLP capabilities is the building process itself. The app building process becomes so much simpler in that you're able to manage your synonyms, manage your data models, manage your facts, dimensions down all to the lowest grain, really. And then once you start to build if you're, for example, if you're building a report, you can just use the Q&A section. And it sounds counterintuitive, right? You're using a Q&A section, but then slowly, as you get deeper and deeper into the questions, you can actually build a report. If you can build a report, you can build an application, you can tie it all together, and all of this just through a Q&A platform. And this is now becoming more and more enabled with type ahead, with artificial intelligence capabilities. It'll allow you to ask questions of your own. It'll prompt you to ask questions. Just a lot of different things that are coming into modern platforms. So as the user community is asking for more of this, these modern platforms have the ability to react to those requests much faster. So the application build time gets significantly reduced. Now that's on the report build, the app build side of things. What happens to the advanced data modeling side? Now we're talking about BI platform move, and we're talking about advanced data modeling. It might appear to you that these are two different things. And for people used to legacy systems, enterprise systems, core-based systems, they are really two very different things. But the more modern platforms are now allowing you to blend data, connect to any data source, create complex joins, merge data from one source, join from another source, and create their data synonyms, create data lineage, all of that from a BI platform. So all of that was unheard of a few years back. Now with this enabling the power user type initiatives that these modern platforms are are taking on, I think those become a lot easier. So again, with the use of Power BI, a power user, somebody who knows the data, maybe somebody who knows your business a little bit, but does not really understand, does not know how to write SQL code, does not know how to make joins, does not know how to engineer data. Those people are still able to do a large part of the data modeling themselves. Now, I will stop short of saying that they can actually construct an enterprise data warehouse model themselves. I won't say that. We're not there yet, but I think we're getting in that direction quite a bit. So I think so. Those are some of the things that tech benefits that are automatically available to you. The third one is the collaboration and sharing. So with the collaboration and sharing, I think the benefit lies in the integrated tools. If you have something like a Microsoft Teams, you're sharing dashboards where you have URLs, you are publishing to the web, you're scheduling reports, triggering based on certain pre-existing conditions. All of those things are now possible with those larger platforms, more connected platforms. With legacy platforms, they were very cumbersome. All of this was, if you need to schedule reports, you need to call the developer and tell him what the expectations are, what the requirements are. Then he's going to ask you questions like, okay, where's the BRD for that? So you got to go around, make a BRD for that. So the process of build itself becomes simpler. That's the common theme I'm trying to get at here. Integration with machine learning. So what can you do with modern platforms with machine learning? In the Microsoft ecosystem, you're able to do three things. You're able to get data, you're able to actually build visualizations using R and Python code, you're also able to invoke pre-existing data, pre-existing models, pre-existing that you've built for whatever purpose, whether it's ranking, scoring, prescriptive, predictive algorithms. All of those things built in R and Python are now now able to be brought in to Power BI just through downloads of libraries. So very, very simple configuration type tasks, and you're automatically integrated with R and Python. So the power of these modern platforms are significant for reasons like this. And last but definitely not the least is the comprehensive API access. And the legacy platforms also offered you API access, but a lot of these API accesses came through the construction of adapters, construction of gateways, construction of very custom solutions. But with these modern platforms, they are you're able to talk to all your different apps. You're able to talk to your data models, and you're also able to talk to other systems, external systems, through the existence of REST APIs. All you have to do is configure those REST APIs, which is the easiest thing that you can do, and then those endpoints become available to you. So I think, in summary, just a lot of technology related capabilities that become available to you through this move of move to a more modern platform. And these might not be the reasons why you embark on a move like this, but these are benefits that you can take advantage of. With that, I'll talk about a couple of use cases with the intent of having you think about where you are in your journey. Maybe this resonates with you, strikes a chord with you for where you are with your BI platform. But I want to talk about two companies without naming them, because we're still engaged with them, but we'll tell you what their symptoms are and what we did with them with respect to the implementation initiative. And if this resonates with you, and if you need to have a conversation on use cases like this, we are certainly available to have those conversations with you. So the first use case is a mid-sized retail company, and they've been using Cognos for reporting and analytics. That should automatically tell you in your mind, some reasons on why they want to kind of move out. So Cognos, like you all know, uses disk-based processing, and which allows you some benefits. You don't want to retrieve all your data during runtime, but also you're limited significantly to the disk capacity, that processing capacity. And if you're not in a cloud-based ecosystem, if you're in a silo, if you're in a on-premise type setup, those can result in significantly long report generation times. Now, Rick talked about this, and I touched upon this as well, which is a lot of the report build time comes down by moving to a new platform. But not only does the build time come down, the report generation time. So in this case, our client was for each tabular report, and sometimes that can be a small enhancement, a small change to one existing report. That can be 2 hours of wait time. All the code written, nothing done. You're just deploying the code and waiting for the code to become essentially active to your community. And these 2 hours, and this particular company, they're operationally using these Cognos reports to schedule a lot of their business related activities, and they have to wait 2 hours for each report. A small change, 2 hours minimum on average. So that was a significant problem. And the user accessibility. So this is the development community. They had a large SQL team, large data engineering team. Their bandwidth continued to be a problem. So the teams that wanted the changes came to this particular team, and then they said, okay, give me the requirements, let's do validation, why do you want this, those kinds of discussions. And they also needed to have a larger staff on board, and a larger staff that were very SQL intense, that understood SQL, understood their data integration tools. So just niche tools and people that understood these niche tools a lot became an issue with them. And not again, last but definitely not least, cost management. Rising costs for Cognos, getting to an unsustainable level. And I think Rick talked about this. So it becomes a point where you're using less, but you're paying more, and you seem to have no control over this whole exercise of licensing. So you're in a spot where every subsequent year, every going year, you're going to be paying more, but you're getting less and less, and sometimes you don't really know what you're getting out of the platform if they don't have a roadmap of getting you AI ready, getting you faster, getting you more modern. So those were the reasons why this company wanted to move from Cognos to Power BI. And some of the outcomes after migration. So they moved to Power BI, and Power BI, as you might be aware, has significant in-memory processing capabilities. So the average wait time came from 2 hours, right around 2 hours, to 24 seconds. So every time they made a change, once the code was deployed, it was 24 seconds for the reports to be rendered and the reports to be used really for operational community. So automatic, easy, low hanging win for them. And another benefit that they initially didn't envision, like I said, the reasons didn't show this. Initially didn't envision, but ended up enjoying the benefits of this, was the quick rendering of the queries. And all of this was, not all of this, most of this was quick, simple English. Somebody who wanted to access some data sources and wanted to validate some data happened very quickly, because they had a list of data sources in their Power BI NLQ query editor tool, and they were able to generate, validate, understand what they needed almost in an ad hoc fashion. So in previous legacy platform terminology, you used to build guided ad hoc or ad hoc reports for you to just even check the validity of this, check the validation, check the feasibility of this. But now here people just went and wrote SQL queries in natural language, and quickly brought out reports and showed it to their management. So that build process also became faster, and the development community became a smaller community. So this shift resulted in what they estimate to be a 40% increase in self-service reporting. So their goal is to be significantly closer to the 100%. But right now they're at 40%, and this is year one. We haven't finished. This implementation hasn't been even a year since it completed, and they're already at a 40% increase in self-service reporting. And more than 80%, this includes the report that came from Cognos, are now generated by business users rather than IT. So a lot of the movement is towards the Power BI, the Power User enabled analytics, and the costs decreased 25%. Now I'll be careful when I say this. There is an exercise that organizations like yourself have to account for, which is the Power BI Premium versus Pro. How many licenses do I need? There is a total cost of ownership type exercise that companies have to get into. So if they're already cloud enabled, they've kind of gone through that process. But they also need to do that when they move to a newer, more modern BI platform, because you don't want to take on more resources, to take on more CPU, more processing units without having to use them. So you can scale that. There is we can help you with that entire process. But like everything else, it's these initial discussions, these initial planning, design type exercises that help you get to where you need to. So use case two is a manufacturing company moving from web focus to Power BI. Again, the theme being more modern interfaces, more modern applications, and a synergy with cloud. So this was a Microsoft shop. They had all of their data inside of Microsoft. They were moving from essentially a lot of physical data to virtualized layers, a lot of physical data to semantic layers. With all that being the case, they wanted to integrate with now they also, one thing to mention here, they also had a lot of IoT devices, which means real-time data all the time. And their current state or their previous state was that they were not really using a lot of the data from their IoT devices. So they collected the data from the IoT devices, but they kind of used it in an analytics fashion, put it in a data warehouse, and then used it for analytics later, as opposed to using real-time analytics. And some of their other difficulties were complex SQL-based reporting. Again, steep learning curve, and the data knowledge resided with a few data engineers, a few data analysts, and the time of those people become significantly important. So this bottleneck is something that they wanted to solve technology-wise. The cost and scalability concerns, they felt like they had to have a discussion with the software vendor every single year. The software vendor, without exception, raised prices every single year, and they had to find ways to combat that. They had to find ways to fight internally to get the resources that they need. They could not get the hiring any lower. They still needed to have these niche engineers continue to help them with these web focused BI reports. So it's just that never ending loop, that never ending circle, just like the previous use case. So what were the outcomes after migration? So what I have to tell you is that they also had their entire data ecosystem move into Synapse Analytics, Azure Purview, Azure Data Lake Gen 2, and using pipelines, using Azure Data Factory. So they moved all of those. So it only made sense that their reporting platform also followed suit. So the outcome, one of the natural outcomes was that the complete migration to Microsoft data happened. And they're still in the process of kind of sinking in what that means, having everything in under one umbrella. But they have, so the database of choice, the physical database of choice for them was Azure SQL database, because they wanted to essentially replicate what they had on premises, and they've done that now. Oncoming steps, there's also, they're looking at enterprise data warehouses inside of the cloud. They're looking at real time with Synapse Analytics. So a lot of those more modern activities are still yet to be realized, but they've started that journey. Another thing is that they are a big proponent of the Power Platform. So all of the data cleansing DQ activities for which they had to go buy a separate exclusive tool is now available to them just using the Power Platform. So in a lot, I mentioned to you earlier about Power BI and how you can actually do a lot of things in Power BI. And for something that's as larger scale, you can actually have Power BI, Power Query type activities that can help you with that. So, so what does that mean? Reduced reliance on IT support. In this case, they are just starting to reap the benefits. In the first use case, they've already gone past that. Their footprint was smaller. This is a larger footprint. This is a larger initiative, but they're starting to realize the benefits here. So I mentioned to you the real-time dashboards, and so now they've started to understand that their IoT data that they collect has been used the wrong way from a consumption standpoint. So now they're trying to actually put to use real-time analytics. So post migration, a 50% reduction on decision making time. They're already at 50%, and they can get significantly higher than 100% because their decision making bar was set really low. So that's what you get by moving to modern platforms like this. There are some tangible benefits, costs, licensing, and so on and so forth. There's also some intangible benefits that sometimes might actually be bigger than the ones that you envision with. Now, how did we approach these customers? How did we work with these customers, and what does a typical timeline look like? So we had, again, this is oversimplifying things. If I need to put everything in a slide, I unfortunately have to oversimplify a little, but we have processes built out for this. We've been doing this for many years now. So broadly, 4 different phases. The current state analysis, which I'll talk deeper about in the next slide. But essentially, you have to understand your BI migration footprint. That's where you start. And you spend your time designing, so mapping your current needs and what your existing BI platform does not provide to something that the newer BI platform provides, in context with your existing data, your number of reports, your data sources, your APIs, your external data, internal data. So this is the time to do all of that. And this is also the time to consolidate reports and dashboards. If you're considering a move of this nature, of this scale, what's unused, why are they unused? Get rid of them if you don't need them. You don't need to carry on a maintenance hassle. You don't need to keep maintaining them. Several clients of ours maintained reports that have never been touched for 10 years, and they continue to take them continue to take it with them through all of these platform moves. So consolidating of the reports, dashboards, so this is the time. So that entire current state analysis gives you where you are and your readiness. So then we embark on something like the data prep and mapping. We're very particular about steps like this. We map data sources accurately to modern needs. Do a kind of a feasibility document that says, for example, if you needed scheduling reports, if you needed pixel perfect reports, and how does your data align with those needs? So those are the things that we do in this stage. And we also get down to the level of preparing calculated columns, preparing filters, your facts, your dimensions, your entities, your table relationships, your foreign key relationships. All of those things are here. And then anything else that needs to be documented on top of that, there's always unique special needs. That's where we kind of do that. And then there's the phased development. So in the first use case I talked about, it was about 3 months. So we just got down to we have a strategy for this. Since we've done several of these, you need to understand what goes first, what the business needs, how are we going to communicate with the business as we are migrating these. Do we need to rebuild completely new apps? Do we need to just replicate the business logic and then kind of do a lift and shift mechanism with the reports? So that entire process is where this development happens. So if the planning phase is robust, detailed, that's when you can reduce time in this development phase. The deployment time frame, usually typically about a week to 2 weeks, depending on the number of environments and your complexity. So just wanted to summarize, this is how we've approached our platform migration with these customers. Every case is unique. You might have your own special needs, and we'd love to talk to you about that. This is the breakout really of that first step. And I think Rick has done this a few million times, so he'll be able to add more color to this than I can. But what I'll say is that, treat this as a checklist of things that you'll need to balance. You'll need to have when you're doing a move like this: the current footprint, which means all of the existing reports, all of the data sources, any housekeeping type things. There's people build reports of their own that they never use after that, and there's the significant maintenance footprint, significant list of reports, list of tabular reports, small enhancements, incremental footprints. All of those things this is where we address during housekeeping. And most importantly, stepping back up a little bit, we need to understand the volume of data, your recency of data, meaning real time I talked about in the second use case, and frequency of handling these reports. So those criteria I mentioned because that will give you an idea of what type of application to design, or if you need to even design an application. Then there's a capability analysis. So this is where we map out, what you need in the new platform. Do you need to build out a whole new platform, or sometimes you're just enabling data to them? You're giving them a reporting view, a reporting object, and they are going and building reports. So this IT team, this BI team is just responsible for the data, and the reports are owned by somebody else. But again, also be careful that you also don't want to have them build 1,000 reports in a few weeks, and then you're responsible for maintenance of those. But that's besides the point. Then there's the design element of that. Our recommendation is that spend as much time on this design element of this. Decisions on self-service apps versus scanned apps versus dashboards. That's the phase when this happens. This is where we consolidate reports. So in many cases where we've consolidated 50, 60 reports to make one application. So these are people that have been building report after report after report, where they could have sat down, had a couple of different meetings, and then come up with one application. So years of work where it could have been a few weeks worth of work. So what does an exercise like this with has we have a few deliverables that come out of this: an anchoring document that details your current footprint, and most importantly, your high level. If we were doing this implementation, how would we plan this? What does our implementation phases look like? Those kinds of things, and also most importantly, the associated costs with something like that. With that, I will hand this over to Rick and ask him to add on to anything that in this last slide. Like I said, he's done this many times over.
No, that's excellent. I just wanted to comment that when you look at this flow, we'll start with the kind of the technical side, documenting what's out there and what's working and not working, and what's used, not used, and all that stuff. When we get into the capability analysis and design, that's when you want to get business users involved in that discussion, because this is going to be their system. And again, the value add, a lot of the value add will come in being able to incorporate capabilities that they currently don't have that would enhance their productivity, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. Is using data to improve the productivity of your business users, and even the design and deliverables. There's kind of a art of the possible process where they are involved in the frameworking of the prototype, what it looks like, and then that all goes into the document, which becomes basically the input to the ROI justification for moving forward with the project. So we will work with you very closely to identify those key points, so that when we go forward, we'll have a good representation of, not just from the IT perspective, but maybe more importantly from the business perspective. And we're really good at that. Look forward to having started those conversations with you about that and how that would work in your environment. So that's it from my perspective.
It sounds good. Sakirat, will give this back to you.
We hope to see you on our next webinars. And if you found this informative, please share it with your industry peers. Yes.
First off, I mean, thank you for everybody to, for having joined this. I know this is a busy Tuesday afternoon, like Sakirat said. Um, so this is going to be the first of many webinars. So this is a series. It's called the WIKS series. WIKS stands for WIKS I Knew Sooner. This is if you have specific topics of interest that you'd like to have covered, you can send that to us. And if that's something that we've worked on in the past, there's also other community members inside of Prism that we can bring on. So it doesn't need to really align to data strategies or BI platform moves or anything of that nature. But if you have a topic that interests you and you'd like us to speak on that, and if we feel like we are, skilled enough, if we have the knowledge to speak on that, we'll certainly do that. So please interact with us and let us know. And so thank you for attending again.